Testing, 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 testing. What up, Huck Squad? Coming at you with an updated In the Bag. And I honestly don't even remember my last In the Bag. I don't think too much has changed, but a couple have rotated in and rotated out. So I figured I'd give you guys an update on what's in the bag, kind of heading into the fall and heading into the winter of 2021. Before we get started on the In the Bag, I'm actually going to be doing a quick skins promo for a skins match that we're going to be filming at Maple Hill next week. I don't know if anybody was around when I did my last skins match earlier this year, but pretty much I allowed the Huck Squad to pretty much sponsor the skins match. Last time the skin was a minimum of $10 without a maximum. So if you wanted to donate for a skin for either your personal brand or your business or just for a general shout out, you can check in the description below for my PayPal, and all you need to do is PayPal me at least $10, and then in the description what you would like me to say and maybe what your company name is. So if you run like an electric company or really whatever it is, if you're local to New England, if you offer like online sales on some sort of website or product, then we can promote that as well. So, and at the beginning of every hole, I'll take care of a self promo for your company or for your brand. So if you are unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, go check out this video right here, and it's the first Huck Squad skins match, and you'll be able to get an understanding of kind of what I mean. And so far, we already have $230 raised because my good friend Mahoney, he brought a huge box of old, used, and a couple new discs to the Huck Squad tournament that I ran a couple months ago. And all sales of those discs were towards this Huck Squad skins match. We do have some leftover discs. I'm going to be auctioning off this entire box of leftover discs that didn't sell at the Huck Squad Open. And it's kind of a variety of companies. They are mostly used, but there's 20 discs here. We have some Strikes, we have a Discmania Ox, we have a P-Line MD4, we have this Avengers stamped, I don't even know, Truth, we have a Pure, we have a couple TDs, Discmania TDs, we have a Discmania DD2, we have a Gold Line Saint, we have a S-Line Instinct, which kind of has this cool like rainbow stamp on it. I don't know if you can see it there. We got a couple MDs, an MD2, I think we have a Turn, like an Innova Turn, an AVR, we have a DDX, we have a Pure, so there's a lot of variety in here, and there's honestly some gold in here. So we have 20 discs that we're going to be auctioning off, and all the proceeds are going to be going to the skins match as well. So big thanks to Mahoney. We're going to be auctioning this off in the comments. I'm going to have a pinned comment. So if you go into the comment section, it's going to be the first comment. We are going to start this off at $40. So $2 per disc. There's 20 discs in here. So anybody who wants to auction for this, just leave a comment below that on the pinned comment with what your bid is. And as soon as, I don't know, maybe I'll cut it October 4th at like 8 p.m. Eastern time. And at that point, I'm going to choose the highest bidder, and that person is going to be the person to get this. I'll reach out to you, and once your payment comes in, then I'll ship it out to you, and you'll get this entire box of used discs that are still really good with a couple of gems in here. All that money will most likely be like individually dispersed over the 18 holes rather than like put into one skin. So say it goes for $80 or $100. I would just divide that by 18 and I would disperse that into all the skins to make each skin a little bit more. I know that was a lot, and I'm sorry to delay the In the Bag, but I just wanted to get a quick promo out for this this week's skins match because it's just going to be a ton of fun. And I think the last time we did it, the pot was at like 210 or 220, and that was after I already got all the donations from people, and we're already at $230 from these disc sales without me even promoting it at all. So this is by far going to be the biggest Huck Squad skins match that I've ever had, and it's just going to be so much fun. So there might be people that put fake comments, whatever. If it is a fake comment and I reach out to you and the payment doesn't come through, I'll just go to the person who's just above you that's a little bit cheaper until I find the person that's actually willing to spend however much they said they're willing to spend. So hope you enjoyed that little skins promo, and whoever ends up getting this box is going to be really happy with what's inside. Sorry to take up so much of your time with that skins promo. We can get right into the In the Bag now. So not too much has changed over the past year or so. A couple tweaks here and there, and I still only have one non-Discmania disc that I just can't get away from. We will start with the putters, and I'm going to move pretty quickly just to not draw this out too long. I am putting right now with the new P2s that were made in Sweden, and I've only been putting with these for a couple weeks now, but I have really been loving them, and they're starting to beat in nice. The dirt's getting on them, so that little gloss is coming off. and they just really feel awesome in the hand. I'm really enjoying putting with the new P2s. Next up, we have a throwing putter, and this is my D-Line P1X. This is only a backhand throwing putter. Sometimes I do throw it off the tee, but it's traditionally used for just approach shots. I never forehand this disc. It is strictly backhand, and most of the time it's used for those flat shots that are going to turn a little bit to the right. Sometimes I'll really power up on it and throw it on a little hyzer so it flips up and goes straight, but D-Line P1X is a wonderful backhand throwing putter. Into my next throwing putter, my S-Line P3X, and this is much more shallow than the P1X, and it's bored flat on the top. And this is also strictly a backhand approach disc, and I can power up on this and throw it off the tee if I wanted, and I can throw this into a bit of a headwind. Maybe not a ripping headwind, but definitely like just a normal headwind I can throw this into and feel confident that it's gonna ride straight and still break at the end. This is pretty beaten in, so sometimes when I do get just barely over on it, it does kind of just ride that line rather than like riding and fighting out. But when a P3X is brand new, it does have more beef than this one has. But at this point, I still don't need to rotate this one out. It still does pretty much what I want it to do most of the time. Next up is one of my most thrown discs in the bag. And for anyone who follows the channel, you have seen this DQ tactic all the time. I throw this thing probably like 8 to 10 times a round, like maybe even more than that. This is my go-to forehand approach disc. So the P1X and the P3X are my backhand approach disc. I'll really never backhand the tactic because the P3X just feels better in my hand for that round edge, and it does exactly what I want it to do on the backhand. It just feels so money, it's so consistent, so reliable. I couldn't speak any higher of the XO Hard tactic. We are getting into the one disc that is still non-Discmania in my bag, and I just can't get away from it. And I put a ton of my Huck Squad stamp on top, so you can't even really see the stamp. This is my KC Pro flat top rock, and at this point, it is really seasoned, and this is one of my most fun backhand throwers. There's almost nothing as pretty as throwing a hyzer flip to like late glide with a beat up rock. I can throw this really hard on a pretty steep hyzer, and if I throw it hard enough, it's actually gonna roll up, and then late it's gonna finish to the right. This is one of my favorite discs in my bag. I couldn't speak any higher of the KC Pro flat top rock. It is the only non-Discmania disc that I just can't get away from. I've tried to replace it with this disc, which is doing a pretty good job actually. XO Hard Method. This is actually also really beaten in at this point. Actually lately I noticed in the last round that I played that 2 of the sides are starting to like bend in because the plastic is just so warped. Sometimes the rock just likes to hold to the right on a right hand backhand, whereas this is gonna do that same sort of like flip up and glide, but it's not gonna like finish to the right late. It's still gonna kind of fight back out and finish to the left. So still a wonderful disc, just hasn't replaced the rock like I had hoped it would. Next up is the brand new C-Line MD3 made in Sweden. And actually yesterday I put up a video of, a full-length video of just throwing this with a couple of my buddies. I've never been a huge MD3 thrower, but by the end of the day yesterday, we threw this thing probably like 40 to 50 times back and forth in the field, and I was really like laying into it flat on a tiny bit of Annie, and it would just ride and then come out like pretty hard at the end. It is a little bit more overstable than I had thought it was going to be. Sometimes I didn't really have a stability or a disc that was in between the Method and the next disc, but this MD3 has been perfect. And I say has been perfect, I literally have thrown it for one day, but I do enjoy it, and it is going to hold its spot in my bag for the time being. October 20th, get yours, discmania.net. Next up is also one of my most thrown discs in my bag, and it does have an ace with it. This is the C-Line MD5, and this is actually the first run. This run was really overstable, and I actually haven't, I don't think, thrown any more recent runs, but this one has a slight dome to it. Similar to my tactic, this is a workhorse disc in my bag. I throw this disc so much. I traditionally do throw it forehand, but I do not shy away from the backhand with it either. This is honestly one of my most thrown discs in my bag on a regular round. It never really does me wrong in the sense of throwing the line I think is going to work, and then the disc does something different. it always does essentially exactly what I think it's going to. And it's a couple of years old at this point, and it's still overstable, so that's really good. C-Line MD5. Next up is my S-Line FD. And this FD is legitimately 3 years old, maybe even more than that, and it is still straight. It is not flippy. Sometimes I see people's FDs turn into like roller discs, and I know those are more likely like the D-line FDs, but even sometimes people's old S-line FDs do turn into like roller discs or strictly turnover discs. FDs are honestly one of the most beginner-friendly discs and one of the most straightforward discs right out of the box. It is going to fly straight for you. Right out of the box, it is going to have a little bit of stability, but the glide on an FD is just unbelievable. So if you've never tried an FD, try to get your hands on one, because these are so much fun to throw, and they're so consistent for just like hitting your fairway shots and still getting a good amount of distance. Next up, I have my Neo Instinct, which is very similar to my FD, and sometimes it's hard for me to choose between which one I want to throw. The FD is a strictly backhand disc. I only backhand it, I would never forehand it, but the Instinct has a very similar flight on the backhand. It's similar to kind of the difference between my Method and my Rock, where the Method is gonna fight a little bit more at the end, whereas the Rock is gonna hold or maybe finish right. Same exact thing, if I throw this backhand on the same line as the FD, it's gonna still go, it's gonna glide, but at the end it's gonna fight out. Whereas the FD, if I throw it flat, it's kind of just gonna finish flat. It's never really gonna like hyzer out. And I do forehand the Instinct as well. So the Instinct is more of like a dual threat disc, and I can forehand it and I can backhand it. Whereas the FD, I only backhand, I don't forehand. This disc is also like a year and a half old, 2 years to a year and a half old, and it is still holding its stability really well. And it's just awesome to have these like really trusty discs in my bag that I've had for so long, because I just know exactly what they're gonna do, and they're not, you know, they're not doing anything different than what I know they're gonna do. So I really enjoy throwing my Instinct. Next up, we have the Neo Essence, and this one is a little bit newer of a run, and I don't throw the Essence too much, but I keep it in my bag just for those utility backhand shots. And similar to the FD, I'm never actually going to forehand the Essence. This is a strictly backhand disc. The Essence is a great disc to have in your bag. Someone like me, I have a little bit of a faster arm speed, so it can be a little bit inconsistent for me sometimes. I don't really reach for it too often, but when I do, I just try to have confidence in it, and most of the time it holds the line that I want it to, and it does what I want it to. That's why it's still in the bag. I have gone through moments of like taking this out and putting it back in, and taking it out and putting it back in, but as of right now, the Essence is holding a spot in my bag. And I have 17 discs in my bag. I'm not sure what the average is or what most people have. Some people have over 20, like 22, 24. Some people have less, but I have 17 and my 2 putters, just in case anyone wondered. Next up is a disc that some of you might be surprised that I'm actually bagging, and that is the Tilt. And this is in the baseline plastic, which was the first release. I don't know if you can see it, but on the top of the disc right there, there is a gigantic chunk that got taken out, and that literally happened yesterday. But I guarantee this disc is still gonna be ridiculously overstable. No matter how many little chunks get taken off the rim of this thing, it is never gonna lose its stability, I don't think. I probably throw it like once a round, and in every single tournament that I've played this year, this was in the bag, and I think I threw it in every tournament that I played. And the tournament that I won at Devon's, I threw this thing 3 times over the course of the day, and all 3 throws did exactly what I wanted it to, and no other disc in my bag would have been able to accomplish what this does. Sometimes you just need to be able to throw something really soft on a weird angle and just trust that it's gonna like swoop its way out, whereas most other discs like my MD5 or my Tactic on such a slow shot is just kind of like gonna ride into the ground. But if I throw this thing on like on a really steep angle like this on a forehand, kind of like with some height, it's going to sweep out before it hits the ground, even if I throw it really soft. So I do keep the Tilt in my bag, and I do throw it more than I thought I was going to throw it. Moving up, we have my C-Line FD3. This is probably one of my longest tenured discs in my bag, and I have an ace with it. And sometimes, just because of the color, it's like dark purple, sometimes I'll choose not to throw it on the vlog because I'm like, oh, nobody can even see this thing flying in the air, like why would I even throw it right now? But when I'm not filming, I throw this thing all the time, and this is pretty much a primarily forehand disc, and I can trust this anywhere inside of like 350 feet, and it's still overstable, and I've had it for, I don't even know, 3 years maybe. And this is one of my go-to forehanders off the tee, from approaches. If I'm in a tough lie and I need the disc to go a little further than the tilt's gonna go, actually a lot further, because the tilt really doesn't want to go over like 175 feet, where I can get this up to like 300, 350. But I do use this all the time for those patent pending, behind the tree, lean out, soft forehands that you're kind of trying to weave through the trees and come out. The FD3 is just a disc that I use all the time. One of my most thrown discs in my bag, so I really do enjoy the FD3. Next up is my Metal Flake C-Line PD, and this is essentially my backhand version of my FD3. I can forehand this, but sometimes I'm like, why would I forehand this when I can just forehand this? Like, there's no need for me to go away from a disc that I know so much. And it's like my 10-speed backhand driver where I can get it up to like 350, 375, but I never really want to push it for like a full distance shot. C-Line Metal Flake PD, solid backhand disc. Getting into the distance drivers, we have my Neo Enigma, and this is kind of like my long bomber disc. It is starting to get a little bit finicky and like inconsistent, but it still smashes, and I just don't throw it if there's any wind anymore. I've always loved the Enigma for those long bomber shots where you just want to throw something on a little bit of hyzer, let it flip up and glide. Similar to some of these other discs, I don't really forehand the Enigma. I forehand my next two drivers coming up. So this is typically just a backhand disc, and I kind of treat it like a faster FD. Like if I need to have a nice straight shot through like a tunnel in the woods that I want to throw on a slight hyzer and just flip up and go, maybe finish a little right and then die at the end, I'm reaching for the Enigma. If I need it to just go a little bit further, actually maybe like 50, 60, 70 feet further, then my FD. Next up is my workhorse driver, and this is my S-Line DD3. And anyone who watches the channel, I lost this disc at Hawkins maybe like a month and a half ago during one of my videos, and a viewer actually found it, left a comment, we got together for a round, and then he got it back to me. So I got this baby back. It was out in the woods like for, I don't know, going on a month or so in the rain and the heat, and I was expecting it to be like a little bit more flippy when I got it back, but it still holds its line. It might be like a tiny bit more flippy, but it's really essentially the same disc it was when I lost it. So thank you, Dustin, for finding that and getting it back to me. That was so nice of you. I can get this to go 425 probably. I've lost a little bit of distance over the years, but I feel like if I get out into the field and I really work on my distance shots, I'm 6'4", and I've always considered myself pretty athletic, but sometimes I don't feel like I'm using my whole body to my advantage, or I don't think I'm really fully reaching back with a straight arm. A lot of the time I'm reaching back like this, and then I'm kind of pulling through like on a little bit of a weird angle. So it might be a little bit of a good video idea, is seeing if I can get out to the field, film my form for my distance shots, and see what I can tweak to maybe give myself an extra 40, 50 feet. Because I feel like I can get further than like 425, and I used to be able to, but I've kind of lost distance over the past couple of years. In 2019, I broke my throwing hand, and it took a little bit to get that feeling back and get my distance back. This is my S-Line DD3, my workhorse driver, and this is just what I lean on when I'm on the tee pad on most long holes. The newer version of that last disc, another S-Line DD3, but brand new, and actually another viewer, Nick, gave this to me when he realized that I lost this disc. So everyone kind of like rallied around me when I lost my DD3 because I was so sad about it. And this DD3, the yellow one, is probably like a year old, year and a half maybe. So it is really straight, and it will flip a little bit and ride that line. But this one, since it's brand new, it'll ride, but it'll definitely dump out. And I can throw this one a lot harder on a little bit more of an ante and trust that it's gonna come out than I can with my yellow one, because if I throw my yellow one hard and on ante, it's most likely just gonna kind of roll into the ground. But this new one is great for trusting with maybe a little bit more wind, or just throwing it a little bit harder, trusting that it's gonna come out. And it's always nice to find molds that you like and have like different wear of them. So a new one, a beat-in one, a really flippy one. I think Philo does a really good job of that. I saw an in the bag that he had a couple years ago, and he only had like 5 different molds, but each mold was in 3s pretty much. putters, 3 mid-ranges, 3 fairways, 3 drivers. Like, it was crazy to see that, but it was really cool. This is my slightly more overstable DD3. And rounding off the end of the bag is my Skyrider. And this disc is quite overstable. It's not like an insane beefcake, but it's really overstable and really trusty in headwinds. I can throw this forehand, I can throw this backhand, I can pretty much throw this however I want, but it is overstable. It really doesn't fly as far as my DD3s or as my Enigma, but if it's a really windy day, I can trust this to throw directly into a headwind, and it's not gonna go crazy and like turn over on me. So really do like the Skyrider as kind of like my most overstable disc in the bag, other than the tilt. I don't throw it maybe as much as I used to when I first put it in the bag, but I do like having it as just kind of like my most overstable disc. That is it. That is all she wrote for the bag. I'm still using the Latitude 64 Luxury E3. I've used this bag for I think like 5 years now. I'm pretty sure I got it back in 2016. It's still treating me well. You know, this zipper is a little bit busted, but the straps are still good. The seams are still good. Nothing is like really ripping. The bottom of the cup holder on the bottom corner is a little bit like ripped through, but not enough where the cup falls through. But other than that, the bag has held up really well. I kind of have, like I said, I'm tall. I kind of have like a big stature. So someone who's a little bit shorter or smaller might not like this bag because it is really big and pretty heavy when it's full. For me, it fits my back perfectly and I have really enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed that in the bag. I don't know how much has changed since my last in the bag. I'm sure some of those are different than they used to be, but I am really confident in the discs that are in my bag. I'm never out on the course like, oh, I wish I had this or I wish I had that for this shot. I'm very, very content with all the discs in my bag right now. And maybe someday I'll be able to get that KC Pro Rock out, but I just love throwing it way too much to take it out at the moment. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to support the skins match, all the information is going to be down below in the description. And if you liked any of these discs, or if you throw any of these discs, or if you bag any of these discs, leave a comment with kind of like what your experience is, what maybe your favorite Discmania disc is, and I'll make sure to respond to all you guys. But hope you enjoyed. Drop a like if you did. Drop a sub if you want to see more. I have the fire truck going behind me in my outro, and make sure to look in the description for the information to sponsor a hole for the skins match coming up next week at Maple Hill. So I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Keep eating your vegetables. Peace out.